All right, so let me share my screen again. Okay, so like I said, it's been a little bit light in terms of WordPress news and events. This one is kind of a follow-up to what we talked about last month, which was that WordCamp US, which was held in Portland, has completed. But just FYI, again, if you were not able to attend, there's really two ways you can watch the recordings of the sessions. There's, just if you go to YouTube itself, there's a WordPress channel on YouTube. But I think really the better way, and one that they don't publicize, I think, quite as well, is there's still this WordPress.tv website. And in fact, here, they've broken apart the sessions based. I'm sorry, they've broken apart the days based on the sessions. One unfortunate thing is right now, at least on the YouTube channel, it's still like one big block for the sessions, at least the last time I looked. So if you really are really interested in a couple of speakers, a couple of topics, you definitely want to go to WordPress.tv. And like I said, you can also, the cool thing about this too is you can go back to previous WordCamps here as well and see old presentations. So check that out again if you didn't get a chance to attend. Always some good presentations there. A lot of stuff AI. I got to look through some of these as well too. So it seems like some interesting, timely topics. Another quick one too. We talked about this. I think I mentioned this last month that there was some discussion in, I think it was the GitHub actually for the WordPress developers, kind of the WordPress core contributors, and they were talking about different potential blocks coming soon or potentially coming soon into WordPress. So one of those blocks you can actually play around with right now. It's already implemented in Gutenberg. It's the accordion block, and I'll show you that real quick. So it's very basic. Maybe they're still proving out the functionality of it. But it has some neat things behind the scenes too. So apparently it's using that interactivity API, which was something that was discussed, probably months ago. And I think about it, that might have been actually kicked off in that last WordCamp US of last year. So the idea is having this interactivity where you're not making calls back to the server. A lot of stuff is happening real time in the browser, just so it helps with performance, et cetera. So it's using some of those core features in this. So I have a real quick, I think it's this one. I have a real quick demo I can show of it. So accordion demo. So if you want to play around with this, or again, you can wait till it eventually gets rolled into the main version. But if you're ever interested in getting a sneak peek of these features, the way you can do that is you need to install the Gutenberg plugin. So that's step one. So the Gutenberg plugin gets updated, I don't know, almost nightly or very frequently with a lot of different features. So again, you don't want to do this on a production site, a live site that you have any like vested interest in. You don't want to do this on a kind of a demo site because things may break. And so once you've installed the Gutenberg plugin, just the second piece, again, if you're interested in doing this, is under experiments, you need to turn on experimental blocks. So the accordion one right now is still an experimental block. But I'll show you real quick. I mean, if you ever used an accordion block, either with other page builders or with other block plugins, et cetera, it should be very familiar. So the way this thing works is, so I created this accordion. So it gets added as an accordion pattern. Oh, I'm sorry. No, I think I saved this. Sorry, I saved it. I renamed it accordion pattern. But each of these accordion things inside is really made up of, this content. There's a header, which is really the top piece here, and then the panel, and then the text itself underneath it. There's really not a lot of functionality in it right now, so it's okay. I think it's a good beginning for, basic features like this. So, one example of where you would probably want to use something like this is like an FAQ. So, it's probably something, if you have basic needs for this type of block, it'll do fine. If you have something more, more demanding, you may stick with whatever you have or look for a block pattern that does things a little bit more. But let me just show you real quick what it kind of looks like live. Here we go. So really simple, and I threw the styling around it, so it doesn't come like this, look like this by default. So like I said, there's very, very minimal styling. So this, I put it into a group, so that's why I have a background and a border and all that. It doesn't look like that by default. So you can open up multiple sections, you can close them, et cetera, et cetera. It's okay. Right now, you don't have the ability to change this icon. You don't have ability to do a lot of styling at a real, detailed level, but just more FYI of something that's coming hopefully fairly soon. And I really like to see, as we talked about last month, I'd like to see more of these blocks, some core blocks get introduced. We obviously don't want hundreds and hundreds of additional blocks, but something like this seems very basic. So anyway, something to look out for in the future. And then tool or plugin spotlight. Peter, you got anything for us? Oh, and you're on mute if you were going to talk. Oh, sorry. Yeah, to make you co-host. I'll do it, Peter. Sorry.
I don't think he heard you.
Oh, yeah, he did. Peter, you're on mute. You're still on mute.
There we go.
There we go.
All righty. Sorry about that. And it's funny because I have a new I use a Stream Deck that I haven't used much, which is a tool where I have buttons for doing things like I'll press the button, hear me, and I'll press the button and you can hear me. It's just it's a box. So I've got some things, and of course I'm not used to it. So all I was saying is I want to make sure that we don't forget WordPress Accessibility Day is coming up. So that's a good thing to pay attention to. So the thing I'm talking about today is something called Simo. Simo is a plugin. It recently came out. It doesn't have hardly any active installations, but it's really very cool. What Simo does, and Ray, have you heard of Simo yet?
No, I'm not.
No, I know Sue has because it came up in another call, but Simo, what it does is when you activate it and you upload images, it uses the browser. So before it gets to WordPress, so it's not using the WordPress server, it's not using anything on the WordPress site, but when you upload an image, it converts it to WebP file format, which depending on the file, can save a ton of space. It's really very interesting how it works. And in fact, it can actually speed up uploading on large files because it converts the file on the fly as it goes up. So to demonstrate Simo, I've got a page with a couple of images, and I'm going to upload some images, and we can compare what something looks like with it activated and not activated. So looking at my plugins, right now Simo is activated. I'm going to deactivate it. So if anyone is unsure on how to install plugins, just speak up. I can go through the install process, but to save time, it's now deactivated. It's down here in my deactivated site. So if I go here to this page, and I've just got a couple placeholders, and I replace this image with something that I want to upload. Say I want to upload, let me pick one that I don't think is on the site yet. Oh, it doesn't really matter. Oh, I know what I want to do. These are some images that I pulled from WordPress.org/photos, which are all free images. So let's just say I want to upload this file, and I open it up. Hold on. Uploading it. There we go. Okay. So the file I just uploaded, and it's taking a while. You can see it's kind of loading in. And it's loading on the thing. It's a big file. This is a very big file. So now if I save this and I view this page on the front end, okay, I've got a little code snippet I could share later to show the details of this image. Oh, this is very interesting. It already uploaded it. Oh, I know, because it was saved as WebP. hold on. Let me go back. Let me replace this. Let's do it this way. Open media library. Upload file. Select. I'm not going to. These are.
Those are JPEGs.
No, I had to. This is the thing because it runs in the browser, right?
No.
I have to refresh.
No.
Okay. And I don't mind this taking a little bit of time because it's very cool, and the widget stuff is going to go by really quickly.
Yeah, pretty much.
Okay, so let's see if now that I've got this, let me replace. Let's put a different image there. I want to show. Let's do this one, this sunset. And it should be not in the browser right now, meaning the CMO plugin, which sits now between the uploading. If I save this, I'm going to refresh on the front end. Okay, so this is a JPEG,
Yeah.
right? So that's the file. Now I'm going to go back here. Oh, I didn't need to go back here. I had it up in here. I'm going to go to CMO. I'm going to activate it.
Mm.
So now it's just a simple, there's no settings for the CMO plugin. It's the only thing I have to remember to do is to refresh this page to make sure that I'm loading CMO in my editor.
Interesting.
Okay.
The plugin documentation said as you upload them, you're saying it'll do ones that have already been uploaded?
It only new ones as you upload them.
As you upload them, okay.
Right. So the whole point of this is it's kind of a going forward, but it doesn't run on your server. It runs at the point in time that you're uploading a file.
Right.
So now if I replace this one
Gotcha.
and I upload, I'm going to upload the same file. So you can have multiple versions of the same file in the WordPress media, but it's not going to be the same one anyway, because now when I bring this up, it's uploading that file. This could be also this particular server is my demo server that I probably should throw more resources at. Okay. So now when I load that, you can see that it's dropped in size from these 732 kilobytes to 562. But where it gets really interesting is that I've done some files where it's dropped it by 80% in size and all. But again, what's very cool about this is you get a faster upload without doing anything on that server side, so that if you just load it and then just start building your site, you don't have to do anything differently. You don't have to, if you drag and drop images in, it'll work. If you click and upload, it'll work. It'll give you that smaller file size. And I think when you go to the image on the back end, the WebP, if you click on it, it gives you a, it's interesting. I must have some optimization already in place here, because I do know that original file size was 6 megabytes.
Yeah, so maybe something happened first.
So something happened with the JPEG uploading. I can't remember if I don't think I have another image optimizer up there, but I also know that WordPress does some of the work now itself, right? So because it picks different file sizes. But this shows you here how much it actually took the original and dropped it down in the upload, and the uploaded image, again, it's only uploading the smaller size in the first place, so all the work being done in the browser, so even the upload time is shorter. It seems kind of complicated until you do it, because once you install it and activate it, you don't think about it ever again, other than the fact that your site is now giving WebP files.
We got two questions, Peter. Sue first asked, are there any nag screens on that plugin? Because is there like a pro version or a limit to how many pics it'll do?
No, there's the only nag that you see is right here when you go to see your image. And there have been requests to have that removed. And the developer, who is a very friendly person, sounds like they're going to do that, going to give you an option. So maybe you do have an option to just to turn
Peter,
off.
is there a pro version?
I don't think there is a pro version.
All right, so there's probably no nag screens. And what does it do with the original image? Does it replace the original or does it leave you might have said it, but I missed it.
Well, there is no original image, if you know what I mean. The original
Okay.
image that's on your computer, when you upload it, your browser shrinks it down to WebP, and that's what gets uploaded. So the only thing your WordPress site sees
Okay.
is the WebP file.
So
The original's still wherever the source
people who are doing websites need to know that because sometimes when you're looking for your original, you don't have it anymore.
Yeah.
So
It's converted on the fly.
no, it's good for the site, server space size and all that. It's just be careful with I'm kind of OCD about keeping originals for decades, but not everybody does that.
Yeah, no, it is. It's just what it saves, like any time of, well, I want to use WebP and I'm going to do a bulk conversion using a tool. I've done that in the past where there's like online conversions where I kind of took a bunch of images and bulk converted them to WebP. With the CMO plugin, you don't have to do that if you don't want. Now, again, the whole goal here is to make file sizes, images on your site smaller. WordPress dishes out WebP. I do know there's yet another, Ray, do you not remember there's another compressed image size file type coming out soon?
No, I haven't heard that besides WebP.
Yeah. I heard it like last week. So
WebP's been native in WordPress since a couple releases ago, I believe, right?
Yeah.
Because like SVGs, you still, I don't know what the status is. SVGs for a while there, you still had to like allow them to be uploaded and stuff. I think WebPs are native now in WordPress.
Oh, are they? See, that I don't know. I use a plugin to do that. Actually, use the enhanced admin.
Permissions.
You can turn that on or off, and you can turn on SVG files.
Yeah, I don't. Well, like Sue said, I don't think SVG is allowed yet, but I think WebP, I believe, I could be wrong. I thought it was one of the last major releases. I can look that up afterwards and see.
Oh yeah, WebP is now that you can upload a WebP file to WordPress
directly. Yeah.
Which is why this works, because ultimately if you have a JPEG, if you have a PNG file that was created somewhere, like AI often creates a PNG file, which can be very large if it's a photo, but as a PNG, and you convert it to WebP on the fly as it goes up, as it gets saved to your WordPress site, it's going to be a lot smaller in file size. So basically, your website, if you do that, your website goes faster. There are other tools.
And that's one thing too. Like if you run what's a lighthouse kind of analytics, sometimes that's a big thing. Always used to pop up and say, "Hey, convert your images to like a compressed format like WebP." So it helps.
And will take care of it for you. Yeah.
Gene, did you have a question? I thought I saw your hand raised, but you might have lowered your hand.
Oh, Robert kind of addressed it. It was just because he uses Squish. So my question was, so do we not need to make WebPs ourselves before? Because I was always making my images as optimized as possible and then uploading it. But if I can save 5 minutes by not having to do this and just go up from my,
Yeah, that's what this plugin does for you, is that you skip that step of converting a file into WebP.
That's really cool. Thank you.
Yeah, it does. It converts it to WebP on the fly as you're uploading it. And as it describes, I wonder where it's here, but again, the whole key is it's because of the modern browsers, it'll work. Now, here's the other caveat: doesn't work in Safari.
Yeah.
Doesn't work in Safari to upload because it's the other that's the upload. Now I think Safari
will still display them. Yeah.
Display WebP. Yeah. So it's purely if you're using Safari as your WordPress browser when you're using WordPress and uploading, this won't work.
Right.
Now, since I haven't owned a Mac in my life, I've never worried.
I do, but I don't use Safari in my.
Yeah, it seems like most don't. They're using some Chrome browser. But anyway, I mean,
Sue had mentioned also one last thing too. It's like when you uploaded your images too, I think one other way you could have compressed them a bit more was actually like resizing them to proper instead of 2000 pixels or whatever. So
yeah. And again, that's another thing.
First.
Yeah, that's another thing you can certainly, there are plugins to do and stuff that's happening in Core.
Yeah.
Right. So Core is even limiting
that's true.
File sizes. You can set those parameters, so then it says, okay, upload, and then WordPress itself will then bring it down even further, or a Smush, or a the one I use, which is Pixel. Oh my gosh, I can't remember. I've owned it for so darn long, I don't remember what it's called.
Short Pixel. Yeah, me too. Yeah.
Yeah. So those will do whatever they can do even more. And then if you've done things like set maximum file size in short pixel and all, then you take advantage of that.
We'll say,
but again, this is the simplest way that I have found to get a small file size without doing any work, and in fact, improving even the upload process. So I'm just going to make it part of what I do, just because it's easy peasy, and the WebP format is really, good quality. It's a high quality image.
I know we don't have Steve Sherman anymore, our photographer friend on these calls, but definitely image quality is something that just you need to be aware of too. If you're trying to retain, let's say, a high quality image and keep it looking that way, sometimes over compressing obviously can, ruin that. But yeah, I think WebP, as far as I know, is a fairly lossless, at least to most people's eyes, kind of
right.
Not completely lossless, obviously, but it's better than some other compression techniques.
There you go.
Cool. Can you put the link to the that plugin in the chat, Peter, when you get a chance? Please. There we go. Cool. Thank you. Simo. All right, let's get into the core topic. So again, if you've been following our meetups for the past when did we start? I think we started this last year a little bit. Oops, let me just close that up. We've kind of been going through the core blocks in WordPress. And again, if you missed some, you can go back to our YouTube channel and see previous discussions on this. But because there really is a lot behind just the core blocks that come for free with WordPress. So in our past meetups, we've gone through extensively the text blocks, the media blocks, design, et cetera, et cetera. So we're kind of almost winding down to the widget blocks, because I think we've covered the theme ones. May not be of total interest to everyone. But the widgets are interesting because they're a little bit of a hodgepodge, as you'll see tonight, of blocks. And again, for people who maybe have only worked with more recent versions of WordPress, they are a little bit of, like I said, a bit of an oddball too. Like why are they called widgets? Well, the old versions of WordPress, and I have to put this in here actually, is your themes prior to like block themes. Your theme would basically describe areas where you could put custom functionality, and that was kind of called, under appearance, you'd have this thing called widgets, and that's where you're really limited based on what your theme provider implemented, as well as what WordPress core kind of implemented as widgets. So again, to get this kind of blast from the past, this is what it looked like. By default, it actually looks more like a block editor now, but there is a plugin called Classic Widgets. So if you install that, it makes it look like this. Like there's a classic editor plugin that makes it look like pre-Gutenberg days. But just the reason I'm showing this is because in the past, you were really limited based on your theme, what your theme provided you in terms of areas where you could drop widgets. So typically you'd have, footers, headers, sidebar, things like that. So those were the only places in the past where you could use these kind of components. So anyway, I'll just close this up. So, but now the interesting thing is you can put these anywhere. It may not make sense to put them everywhere, but you can. So what we're going to do tonight is we're going to kind of go through each of these components, spend some time on some more than others, but really just to kind of give you an idea. If you haven't played around with them, or part of our reason for doing this is a lot of people don't even realize these things exist. So rather than finding another plugin to do something, maybe one of these core widgets can do what you need. So I think, Peter, I know we never practice these things, but maybe if we want to split it up, we can do like 2 and 2. You want to do like 2 of yours, and I'll do 2. So you're going to do our whatever.
For mine, I'm going to go real fast, except for one.
Yeah.
So why don't I do a bunch until I get to the recent posts, because
All
that
right.
one.
Yep, that's fine. That ties in with my. Yep, cool.
Yeah, I think that'll work. So let me share again. Let me move this out. Yeah, I was going to talk about that classic widgets thing too, because it could be that we've got folks on the call who are using classic widgets because it is active on 2 million plus websites. It was yet another thing where when the block editor hit 5.8, a lot of people kind of got a little nervous about the way the sidebars, the widget areas was modified. So that plugin is probably, Ray, what you had active to show that. Now, in the modern way, we'll show this real quick, as we call it, when we go into the widget areas under appearance and you have widgets. Now, widgets and sidebars and widget areas are kind of all names for the same thing. So now in the widget area, you have that ability, those sidebars, to put in all the widgets that Ray was just kind of showing under widgets. These widgets here that we're going to talk about. So they were originally, the assumption was you're going to put them in the sidebars like you did originally. But again, being blocks, you can put them anywhere. And what's nice is on the flip side, in widget areas, you can put other blocks. So you can put photos and spacers and design things and all, if you even use sidebars, right? So these sidebars or widget areas, a lot of times I see sites are not using them nearly as much. It's an option. It depends on your theme. So if I look at the theme that I have active right now, which is Cadence, there's a sidebar 1 that has sidebar 2, footer 1, footer 2, footer 3, footer 4, and these are all used in Cadence part as places where you can put content that then when you're building your headers and footers, you can use these widget areas. But talking about the specific blocks, again, now because they're blocks, you can put them either in a widget area or on a page, a post. You could put them in, if you're using the site editor, on a full site editing block theme versus a classic theme, you could build your template parts if you get that far into it, where you could say over here, this is where I'm going to use my template for my post, or now I want these particular widgets landing in a certain spot. But the bottom line is those blocks are available everywhere, and tonight we're talking about the specific blocks. So what I've done here is I've just got a simple, I'm looking at a simple page that I'm creating. It's actually, this is a post, and I think it's pretty blank right now, to set up the different ones that we're talking about. So the first one is the archives block. And the archives block, if we go into the block editor, go under, and I may have, because I got another trick to show you. There we go. I'll show this afterwards, where once you, if you don't use widgets in editing posts and pages, you can remove these from your inserter, so you don't have to scroll past them or have them in your way. And you can do that for anything. I'll show that a little bit later, because I think it's just another little tip or trick that some folks don't see. So if I come here right now, I'm grab the archives block, I'm going to drop it in there, and here's what it is. So the archives block, I've got the link here if you want to, and I'll put this page on our other site too. But if you want to see what here's the links to the WordPress.org documentation on the different blocks. You can see there's not a whole lot to them, but so the best thing is just to show. So I just inserted, this is the archives block. The archive block, it links to archive pages that group post by time interval, so you can break it down by year, month, week, or day. The options include displaying as a list or drop down and counts per groups, and there are styling options. So by default right now, if I click on this block, this right now is showing group by month, but I could say group by year. And when I change that, it's saying, okay, let's see, all your posts by year. I can show the post counts just by turning this on. And what that will do is say, okay, in 2025, I've got 10 posts. This is a demo site, so I've got like demo content here that I've been showing. So it shows that. I can also display this as a drop down, meaning instead of having it be a list of it, you could say you place this maybe in a sidebar, maybe in your footer, something to that effect, where you could say select by year and say, okay, I know there's a post from a certain year that I want to see. And keep in mind, one of the reasons why I think some of the widgets have gone by is in terms of where WordPress has migrated from this blogging platform to this content management system. So again, one of the reasons why we might see some of these things a little bit less, but I'm going to not show it as a drop down. And if I save this and come over here, that's what you see in the editor. You can see on the front end. And then if I click on this date, I will go to my archives page. The archives page often defined by your theme. Or you could create, we're not spending time on that right now, but the design of, in Cadence, which this is right now, if I went into customize, I can go to the archive page. I could say show how many across, so I want to show things like that. So, but the widget is the thing that tells the archive page what you're looking for. So that's the archive block. That's kind of all there is to it. Any questions on that before I move to the calendar block?
No, but it was kind of subtle, just to point out too, like when you clicked on a year, if you
Yep.
saw on the URL too, it shows the archive. Obviously, it's filtering based on that year. So it's,
That's correct. Right.
Yeah, so
So
like 2024, you can see up there.
right. Yeah, and this can affect, there's an SEO aspect to this. Sometimes you can decide whether you want to show things in archive pages or not. It gets, now you're getting into a level of, how granular you get with how you're dishing out your data. But yeah, that's defined by all that blogging work that is in our WordPress content management system.
Mm-hmm.
Calendar. My note. Don't use. It's pretty useless. Ray, do you have any use for the calendar?
No, I don't remember what it looks like.
It doesn't work as far as I'm concerned. And I've tried it on Playground. I've tried it in full site editing.
Well, it looks like it filled in at least September 11th and 16th. You have some.
Yeah, no, it did. And I'll show you what it does. So in terms of the options, you have styling options. I can set the background color to, I didn't even know if that did anything. Let's see. Oh, I can change the text, so I don't want to do that. Anyway, why I don't like it and why I think it's useless is when I'm going to save this. And now if I go back to this page, see, there's the style. Okay. They don't show it in the editor. There's the link. I should change this back here, that when I was playing with the styling. So that September 11th shows as a link. There's no explanation. It's just the number with a little line underneath it as a link. So you've got to like, what am I looking for? And then if you want to look previous, if I go to August, like I think you'd go August, September, previous. Now it just goes to the August archive. And now you're out of the calendar. so you can't even go see
Well, if you
previous.
had it in the sidebar, I guess it would keep context, I think, right? Or
Yeah, I
yeah,
was
I
showing this.
get you though. It's kind of it's a weird one of like, yeah, I don't know the use case for it.
So right, but it doesn't work. Like right now, if you just saw this, you wouldn't even know.
So
You'd
you have
have
to
to.
hover over it to see the link.
So you would go into CSS and maybe lighten that up and say, okay, big deal. You've got one on the 11th and the 16th if I hover it. And again, if I click this where I think I'm going back, now I'm just going to that. And that's it.
Yeah,
Isn't that weird?
yeah, I agree. Useless.
It doesn't work. And you know what? I've seen this on websites going back 10 years.
Hmm.
And on the user end, I never used it.
Yeah.
By the way, just again, now to show kind of some of the things where I was over here, and this was demonstrate. This is actually now the sidebar in Cadence turned on, and there was a few things again using the same widgets. But if I go under that page in Cadence, it works this way. If I go to the post settings, I can change whether I'm going to show a sidebar. I'm going to set it to the default, which shouldn't show a sidebar. Now, if I come back here, the sidebar is gone. That's a theme function. That's a function of the theme. Many themes have something similar where you're turning a sidebar on or off. A lot, not nearly as easy as you can do on a literally on a per post basis. That's the calendar. Okay, terms list and category list. They're actually the same thing, which is kind of interesting. When you place the terms list, they're very much in the same block with taxonomy options. So you're basically, when you place it, then you can choose whether you want to see your taxonomy. So taxonomy are categories and tags. So terms are tags. And then you have options for displaying this drop down with the counts, things like that. But this is where, when you place it, now when I go back to my block options, that's this link up here. Now, again, this is why I say it's literally the same thing. I can choose to do categories, and now I'm getting the category choices. I can choose to do tags, and now I'm getting the tag choices. So what are those choices? Similar to archives, display as a dropdown. Show how many counts per each one of the tags. So again, if you even use tags on blog posts, show empty terms as if you've saved terms that you're not actually using. You can decide to show those. And I'll do the same thing over here. Another way you can add is go add after, and then you could just say categories list. And now in this one, because I picked categories list again, even though it's technically the same block, it's set to categories. Again, same options, display as a dropdown, show post counts. What's a little bit different here is you can, because categories, you can have a hierarchy. So you can have a top level, might be, in our case, Connecticut destinations, and then maybe we have shore and river and things like that, and you can show those either all rolled up to the highest level, or you can show the subcategories. I only have top level categories here. Same type of thing. Show empty terms. Show hierarchy is very similar. I think these work hand in hand. The show top level. Yeah, again, I only have top level here. So now again, if I save these, come over here, then you can see, based on the options. And again, what this does, typically based on your theme, it goes to an archive type page where it says, okay, now I'm looking at Connecticut destinations because that's what I picked as one of my under the category list, or under the terms list. Again, if I wanted to see, well, what have I tagged as dining? Oh, there's two links here that have been tagged as dining. So that is those two very similar. And I'll show you the last one here, which is the tag That, Ray, why don't you take it from here? Because I'll show the quick
Okay.
two and then I'll show latest posts.
Okay. Yeah, I think the categories list one is actually still kind of useful today. Yeah, if people are categorizing their posts properly and stuff. So that one, yeah, but you're right.
Yeah, definitely. I think we have our gardening with a madman bloggers on that a great example of if they were setting up categories for like planting or maintenance and for your garden or whatever topics there might be somebody might want to see, or you could set up categories that might be seasonal, like fall, spring, that type of thing, where there's a logic to it and somebody might want to just see, well, what have you, when you're talking about vegetables versus flowers, things like that. That's a great way of using these types of category links.
All right, let me grab the screen. Oops, share my screen. And I'll start with the two most useless ones as well. Keep it with the theme and again, it's some of these I think I don't know, it's not they're useless. They had a use at one point. I do think, like as Peter said, I think the way that kind of WordPress itself has changed, and maybe just even how people are designing sites. I think some of these they feel very legacy. So the widgets, even the name again, we talked about earlier, widgets kind of goes back to this older idea of themes, etc. So I'll start with the page the page list block, very similar to the post the post block that Peter showed, but I'd say less useful even than that. So in this case, I think I got my demo site here. I think I added it to, where did I put it? I think I put it in the footer. Yeah, there it is in the footer. Okay, so let me, again, I'm using a block theme. I think I'm using the 2025 theme. So rather than messing around with sidebars and all stuff, this is actually my home page, and this is on my footer. So let me open this up. I'm sorry, let me edit my footer here. And excuse me, if I look in the outline, I'm sorry, in the list view here, you can see I've added right here. Oh, good. Actually, I'm going to replace it. I'm sorry, that's what I was going to do for my demo. So I'm going to replace these navigation blocks as part of full site editing. These are really menus, so you can add menu links, which in some ways that's what this this page list is. So it's again, I don't see a lot of real value to it, but it does have a couple of interesting features. So let me just delete this, and I'll delete this guy, and I'll add it in here. So I'll go to the widgets stuff. It's the widgets. Oops, I think I went past them. Where'd you go, widgets? There you are. So this is page list. So I'm going to add a page list in here. So what it does is, as you can see, the page list itself, the block, there's barely any real functionality to it. So it is literally a list of my pages, but there's a couple of quirks to it that make it even questionably question its usefulness. First off, for the life of me, I couldn't figure out all the pages underneath it are actually locked, which I know normally you're able to go into a locked block or pattern and just unlock them or lock or unlock. For the life of me, I ran out of time. I did not find a way to unlock these at all. So you can't move them around. So I forget. I think I added my notes there, the order that it actually is displaying these in. But one thing about it though is if you have pages that are, let's say, child pages underneath the parent page, it will show that kind of hierarchy at least. So you can imagine this will go down and down, et cetera, et cetera. So, but beyond that, there really isn't much you can do with either the styling. I mean, you can do a little bit of styling for the text, et cetera, but functionality wise, that's it. You can limit things. That's right. So let's say I just wanted to limit and only display things under like my parent page, things that just have childs. That's it. That's all you can really do with this block. So to me, to be honest, first I was thinking, well, maybe the use case would be something like this would be in a footer, for example. So if somebody had, I don't know, maybe there's a list of pages that you have that are like your About Us pages, or pages that are more like your privacy policy, things that are grouped together in that way. I guess that's the way you could do it. But to be honest, I think I'd rather put those into a menu, and then you can do more normal things with it, like move things around, etc. So anyway, that's page list. And again, I'll be curious in the comments afterwards too. Has anyone used any of these blocks? And if so, I'd really like to understand what use case you had for why you picked that one. So let's jump to the next one, which is also to me a very legacy feeling block. This is the RSS block. So for people who maybe aren't familiar with it, RSS is still around, obviously still used quite a bit for podcasts and things like that. But for, back when WordPress was, really coming of age, I guess, it really was a blogging platform. And blogs, when they were much more popular, a lot of them exposed things through RSS feeds. So RSS was a really simple syndication, I think is what it's called. So what you would do is, this block is basically pulling in an RSS feed from another website into your site, and it allows you to control kind of what you're going to pull in. So let me get out of this this demo. I'll go back to my page here. That's the RSS one. So first off, these days, I think most sites you go to, even blogs, a lot of people don't even expose the RSS link anymore, and there's reasons behind that. In fact, a lot of times on some WordPress sites, if it's not a blog blog centric site, a lot of people turn off the RSS feeds on them for various reasons, security, etc. So, but if you look at like an old site, like I'm looking at Slash.news, one of these sites that's been around forever in terms of technology news, what you would find, I mean, most people are familiar with finding like social media links, but this little one here, that's an actual RSS feed. And in fact, if I click on it here, yeah, this is what RSS feed looks like behind the scenes. It's a bunch of XML, it's a bunch of markup language that says, here's all the stories in the feed, and et cetera, et cetera. So some feeds will expose more information than others. Some feeds will expose, if there's images, they'll expose that. Some may expose only, limited amount of information from the feed itself. So that's something too that's changed over time. It used to be that you'd be able to pull like an entire article through an RSS feed. A lot of major sites now aren't even allowing you to do that. So again, the value of this is also kind of been diminished. But here's what the RSS block looks like if you're ever going to use it for some reason. So it's a block. You drop it in here, and when you first create it, I'll add just another one just so you can see what it looked like when I first did it. So when you add the block, the RSS block, it just asks you for the feed name. So in this case, what I did, like for Slashdot, is I just copied this link and then I pasted it in there, but I won't do that twice. And then once you've pasted it in here, this is, as I said, this is what the block itself looks like. I threw it into a group just so I could have some additional styling options for it, because otherwise there's really not a lot of styling. But what you're given control over is the number of articles that you want to display. You can say if you want the author name or not, the date or not, an excerpt or not, and you can control a little bit of like, if I want this to be in 2 columns, maybe so people can read more versus 3. But I'm still kind of even, groping for why would you do this anymore? The only thing I could think of is if you're trying to become an aggregator of blogs. So, if you're not familiar with like Slashdot and these other things, Y Combinator is like another one out there. These are older blog type sites that they were basically aggregators of technology news and things like that. So maybe you want to do that for yourself. And that's really the use case I could think of. So let's say that you want to build your own RSS, news reader for your whatever. Let's say you have financial information you want to make your own newspaper, basically. I hate to say, but there's apps that let you do that anyway these days. It's like, I don't know, the value of this is quite negligible. So, but let me show you kind of what this looks like actually on the page itself. So when you look at it, again, it's just displaying on my page. It's pulling this information. And then I'm pretty sure when I click on this, unfortunately, it just brings me out to the site. So you're already gone from your site. So it's weird. It's kind of a weird user experience. But yeah, if for some reason you have a need for it, it's still there. To me, again, it feels like a very much legacy kind of thing. I'll throw it back to you, Peter, because these other two are actually a little bit more in depth, the HTML one and the shortcode one.
Yep, sounds good.
And again, I'd really love to hear, again, feel free to unmute yourself too, if anyone has experience with some of these blocks or things that we haven't considered, or if you've seen them in the wild, you're like, oh yeah, no, I've seen that for X, Y, and Z purpose. Yeah, I'd love to hear more about it.
I did a quick types of RSS feeds you might want to add to your own website. So it was like, bringing over news or something from a similar topic. But, I guess if an RSS feed from a source site is giving you information formatted a certain way that you can use, basically it's bringing in dynamic data from another place. Stock market weather updates. I'm not sure how those are being fed out by RSS, but I guess it's a possibility. The idea that you could maybe feature if you have a podcast and you're using RSS feeds. But you had me thinking, because I'm like, I've never done that. I've never had a reason to. But
yeah, for a podcast, maybe makes sense. That might be one if you're hosting a podcast, let's say, and your podcast is hosted on, let's say, Spotify and Apple Music and things like that. You may want a web page for yourself, because they're not going to give you, Apple's not going to give you a web page, or Spotify won't. They'll give you a place in their store. So you may have a page like that where you then link to your RSS feeds there, I guess.
Yeah. Anyway, just thought that was kind of interesting. All righty. So let's talk about tag clouds. Something that has gone out of style quite a while ago, I would think, if anyone remembers what a tag cloud is. If I do my /tag to type it in. So a tag cloud gives you a visual representation of the number of posts that you have in a particular category or tag, and displays that wherever you place this widget block, the tag cloud widget block. So right now it's defaulting to tags. So again, the same idea where you place it, and now your block, you have, what are your block options? So you've got some styling that you can do, set padding and borders and margins and things like that. Or you can, when you go over to the actual settings, set your smallest size font, your largest size font, the number of tags you might want to show if you've got a huge website. You could show tag counts, just like, you could put the number next to it. It's kind of, I don't know if this makes a difference. I'd rather see the numbers next to my list of categories on a category list or something. So that's kind of all there is to a tag cloud. You just, I come over here and look at it on the front end. There you go. And it'll wrap and all, and it's kind of just meant to give you an idea of how much of any one thing that you have.
I wonder, from an accessibility standpoint, is that one also not good?
Yeah, I mean, you would have to tab through it.
But also, how would you know that demo is larger? I guess the font size or something,
It would be, it's not that it's bad in that it doesn't work. It's bad in that what it's trying to convey, it can't convey.
Because it's doing it visually.
So one of the accessibility things is it should be pretty much the same, relatively the same experience. This would be nothing more than just a link of a list of categories or tags, depending on what option you choose. Yeah, that's it. I'd rather see a list, that makes sense. Latest comments is kind of interesting if you have a blog and you are taking comments, which I typically do not do. But if I look at the comments, oh no, sorry, get the right one. That is it's funny. There's some things that are similar. The block I just put up is what you would use when you're like creating theme layouts, page templates, and if you wanted to have your comments on a particular page in a certain way, you would use that block. That's not what we're doing here. We are doing what is it? Latest comments, not comments. Isn't that something? Okay, latest comments. Pick the right one. So I happen to, in this demo site, I put in 3 comments. I'm the only one using this site. It's sad and lonely, but what are you going to do? The options for this is to turn on the avatar or turn off the avatar. That is the image. If you've registered an avatar that you would see all over the place, tied to your email address and all. Display the date or not display the date. Display the excerpt or don't display the excerpt. So the excerpt is then, in this case, I don't see an option for how long it would be. Typically, there's when you have an excerpt, you also say, well, how many words do you want to show of the long comment, that type of thing. I mean, I don't know if I guess you would in this case have something, because again, not sure why the latest comments would be something that you'd want to put in a sidebar, although I guess for a website that's all about interaction and you want to have, hey, here are the latest interactions that we've had with readers, that would be something that you would potentially put on your site.
I guess this is one, Peter, that maybe you said this already. I would think that would be useful if you were creating your own post template, your default post template. You would put that in there. But did you say you think there's another one that's actually in the?
Yeah, there's right. So if you go under, if you're going to your block inserter, and if you go to
like theme ones or something,
site,
yeah,
or theme,
yeah,
I think this is where they've got the comments.
oh yeah,
comments to show. So that's when you're laying out a page.
that's weird. Yeah, it's another strange one. It seems redundant. Yeah,
yeah. This is meant to be just the list of comments, but that might be if you have if you're designing a layout for a post, so a post template,
yeah,
and then you want to show the comments in a particular way or a particular area, you would use the theme block.
You're right. The other one, the block comments, I can't think of, as you said, because that'd be a strange design. Put that just into the putting that into like the sidebar or something.
Yeah, that's, I mean, you used to see this again on blogs when it was all about, and people were saying, hey, look at the interactions we have. These people have commented on different things that we've written here. But as we know, one of the first things that you battle is comment spam. So if you have a site where you're just posting things and you're not really wanting to manage the comment spam, you might not even be accepting comments on websites. There's ways of doing of removing comments even from being on posts, right? So in this particular case, if I come over, get this out of the way.
Oh, you're on mute, Peter. You're on mute.
Oh, that was funny. That was accidental. Yeah. So in this, I turned on discussion. Used to be, did they always call it discussion or was it comments at one point? But
comments, but yeah.
Turning on discussion for a post then opens up this whole area where you can leave a reply, and then you can, on your blog, you're going to set rules as to, does somebody have to be logged in? Does something go into, has to be approved, things like that. So that's all the dealing with comments. But once people place comments, that widget shows you the latest comments, again, based on the different options that you set, including, okay, how many, I only have 3 comments on this demo site. You could set it up to, well, lots. So, but if I only wanted to show the latest 2 comments, I guess if I brought this down to, or 1, it'll only show the latest comment, that type of thing. So that's just one of the options you have. Again, very, very specific to blogs. Okay.
You want me to take it for just to go a break there?
Yeah, go ahead.
Another couple quick ones there.
Yeah, go ahead.
All right. So these, because these are, I think, actually a bit more useful. You don't always need these, but when you need them, it's good to know that they're there. So the first one's the custom HTML block. So this one really is if you need to input raw HTML onto a page or onto a site, there's kind of other ways to do this as well, but in general, it's kind of a simple way to do that. Key thing here, this is not for short codes. The short codes will not be parsed in this. There's obviously a shortcut in the editor you can do for that. Excuse me, some other considerations is if you're an admin or an editor, you're allowed to use all HTML tags. I think all, let's say 99%. I'm sure there's a couple there that maybe for like safety reasons or security reasons that WordPress may not allow. But anyone who's below editor status, like what are the other roles, or contributor or things like that, there's certain tags that WordPress will actually sanitize or filter out. So just something to be aware of, you know. So if you're maybe supporting a site and somebody's trying to paste something in and it's not working, that could be something to look at. Maybe the person doesn't have the right user role for that. This is something I didn't know, so I was researching this. There's a couple, I'll show in a second too, there's a couple of neat features on this too, like a preview tab, et cetera, et cetera. And so let me show you a couple of examples of this. This is the HTML block. Where did I put this into? Oh, it's under widgets demo. I think this is the one. Yeah, okay. So here's a couple of I think common examples where at least I've used it. So as people know, if you want to have there's many ways to do this. Let's say you want to embed a map onto your site. So like, Google Maps is a common one. There are plugins and other ways to do that. One of the problems though is Google, probably a couple of years now going back, is really limited how much you can do with their Maps API. So it's a pain in the neck, quite frankly, to set up. Like you have to set up a cloud account and do all this kind of API stuff. You have to connect a credit card to it and all these other things. So if you really want to just do a simple map, Cadence actually has a simpler. They have a block that does a maps block, but one way to do that is if you go to Google Maps, Google, and let's say you search for a location. I'll pick whatever is near me, whatever, A1 Chrome Publishing. And if you click on the share button on a map, you can see one of the options you have is to embed the map. And so basically you would copy this information, all this HTML code, and you could paste it into this widget. So it's a HTML widget, so again, it's part of the widgets group. So the block doesn't really give you much of anything. It just, think of it as a canvas to drop in HTML. But one thing that is kind of neat is you do have this option to preview. So I can click on the preview button here and it'll show me, oh, that's what it's going to look like on the front end. So you'll have to understand a bit of HTML. So like in this case, if you wanted to, let's say, change the, let me show you what this looks like on the page. Let's say I want to change the size of this map. Right now it is only what's the default in here? It is 600 by 450. I can change that. Let's say I want to make it 1200 by, I'll say keep it 450. You make the change in here. I think the preview will show me that change dynamically. So that's nice. You don't have to keep like saving and going back and forth. So that's one example, where I've certainly used it before, is embedding something like a map. Another thing is embedding the videos. There's better ways to do this now. Obviously, there's a native YouTube widget, and in fact, I think when you copy and drop a YouTube link, I think WordPress now is smart enough to convert it into that widget. But let's say if there's an older video format, something a little bit more oddball, or something that maybe you're self-hosting, or I'm thinking Vimeo's in there now too. But if there's a different format, or for some reason if you need additional controls and you don't feel like installing another plugin, or the core one doesn't do it for you, that's another example where I've seen it makes sense to copy the code. I won't go to YouTube, but basically it's the same thing. You go to YouTube, you share, and it'll give you in this embeddable code. So again, on the front end, what does this look like? I won't press play because we might get a copyright strike for the famous keyboard cat, but that's what it looks like in here. So that's a video embedded. Some other but some other scenarios where I have seen this is, a lot of people don't know, you actually can embed a complete other website onto your site. So let's say for whatever reason, we talked about this, I think, in a previous discussion about, let's say you're migrating an old site. I'm not sure if she's on here, but somebody in the past, I think we talked about, let's say they're working on a site that's not in WordPress, but we had that discussion of, do you completely rewrite the site, or how can you do that piecemeal? How can you build pages, but not build everything at once? One thing you may want to do, again, there are certainly complications behind this, is maybe for some of the pages on the old site, you can just create an iframe for them and then, encapsulate them or host them in your site. So, how do you create an iframe? In this case, let's say you start off by you find the website or web page in particular that you want to create a frame for. And there's different tools for this. There's actually plugins that can do this, but really simple one, a free one, is this iframegenerator.com. So in here, you would put in the URL of the web page that you want to create an iframe for. You can define the width of how big you want this thing to be. You can say whether you want a scroll bar to be there or not, et cetera, et cetera. So what does this look like on my page? So here you go. So this is what the iframe put in, and it looks like this. It's below the cat video. So it's this is the actual website itself. In some cases like this, it looks kind of like it's a native thing on my site. So, if you think about something really simple, like you're embedding a static page from a site that you've built, some people may not even be able to tell that it really was an iframe. It looks like, oh, this is part of your site. In this case, this happens to be like, I'm sure once I press play or went to the menu, it may link me out to that site. So again, not something you want to do for complete websites, but something you may want to do for certain pages of a site. And just a couple other quick examples too of embedding. Google Forms is one, or any kind of form tool. Let's say you have a Google form out there, or something like I'm trying to think. There's some of those other like voting forum things. So if they create a public form for you, and you want to embed it, even MailChimp too. Let's say you had a form for signups, those kind of things. Quite often that code they'll provide you will be in as an iframe. So in this example, I created a Google form, share it as a public, and this is what it looks like inside my site. So the thing that's neat though is when somebody submits this, it's actually, because it's a frame around another page, all the submissions are actually happening on the Google form itself. So it looks as if it's built into my site, but it really is encapsulating, like I said, another site. So this can be really powerful if there's something that you want to really put a wrapper around and kind of maintain that functionality elsewhere. Just final example too is this one's probably, I think, becoming probably less necessary as the styling features in WordPress itself get better. But in the past, I've had to sometimes do like custom HTML styling. So for example, let's say in the past, it used to be hard to do something like have mixed case or mixed colors in a paragraph. I remember way back when Judy Van Kirk's Judy isn't on this, but remember one of our early meetups there, we were talking about like, hey, can I have some text one color and then text another color, et cetera, et cetera. So one way you can do that is by, using HTML, you can create like a span, and inside there have style. So this is like inline styling. So what it looks like is this, like something weird like this. So there's other ways to do this these days, but if there's something where, let's say, you needed to do more specialized type of HTML commands, like another one I've seen in the past was like putting in an old HTML table, which most people would rather rewrite that and change it to a WordPress table. Maybe it's a large table, you don't own it, or you don't want to take the effort to convert it. You can drop something like that into this custom HTML, and it'll preserve the old tables and rows and things like that. So that's custom HTML. I don't know, were there any questions that popped up in chat about custom HTML?
There was a question about, Gene asked about accessibility. And are there problems with accessibility? The answer is yes, in that iframes require kind of some special handling to make sure that the user, regardless of how they're getting to the content, understand where they are. Screen readers need to know that it is an iframe. Coding to get in and out of it. Of course, the content of the iframe itself, if that's not accessible, that's an issue. So that should be accessible. It's kind of a complicated area that I don't have enough expertise to get into the details. I'd have to do more research on it, and I also don't hear it talked about a lot. I think it's one of those things where best avoided. But in a lot of the examples you gave, with the Google Forms and things like that, which work kind of in effect in a frame, kind of take that into account. So it all depends on the content that you're using. This the comment that I would make: this is the most used widget block that I use. In fact,
well, the next one I show, I think I actually probably use it more, but yeah, this one is it's handy. Yeah, it's handy to use. And to Peter's point too, an iframe gets confusing for many reasons. It gets confusing for debugging later too, because if there's a problem, you have to figure out, is the problem on my site or is it the site that's inside my iframe? So that can be a little bit odd. And I don't know if you saw this too. So like when I clicked on this, so if I'm just inspecting this, for example, iframes also behave a little bit weird even in like the Google Inspect tool, because it really is, you're basically pulling another page into your page, like everything in that page. This one just happens to be a page. I don't know if I can, no, I won't bother, but so keep that under consideration too, that you may be pulling the header and footer and all this other junk that you don't want into your page. So in some cases, it may be better to even use some of those iframe plugins, because some of those will give you a lot more control, unless you're familiar with, editing HTML. Like, again, that could be something a little bit confusing too. So let me show just kind of
then you layer on top of that all of those embed blocks.
Right.
And what should you use? It does get confusing with embedding content from other places.
Right. So sort of the partner or peer to Dee, did you have a question? If I saw you raising your hand, or are you just stretching your hand? Stretching. The other sort of peer to this is a shortcode block. The shortcode is a little bit different. It's more limited in some sense than the HTML block, but I know, especially, I would sometimes in the past got confused. Like I would try to put the shortcode into the HTML, and what's confusing with the shortcode block is I'm pretty sure the shortcode block you can actually put HTML into, but don't just put it into the HTML block. Just make your life a little bit simpler. But this one in particular is still very handy, and the nice thing about it too is it allows you to insert shortcodes into pages, posts, different areas of your website, et cetera, et cetera. So if you're not familiar with what a shortcode is, shortcodes it's still there's kind of this oddball thing. Shortcodes are kind of macros is the word I've kind of heard to describe them a bit, built into WordPress. So they're WordPress. You have to write them in a certain way, not you, whoever, let's say you're creating a plugin or a post, whatever. You have to write them in a certain way that you expose functionality out to, the WordPress site, but the person using your code has to put them inside of brackets, and there's some syntax things that you need to account for. So, typically where you'll still use these is if you're using a plugin that doesn't have a native or core Gutenberg block. So I think a lot of plugins these days, like I think a lot of the form plugins that I use now, like Fluent Forms, etc., they have blocks that you can use and just drop the block in, and you can, interact that way. A lot simpler, much friendlier. But there are still quite a few older plugins that don't really have native blocks. So in this case, let me show the example site that I'm on. In this case, I think I have two plugins I'll demo. So there's this Foo Gallery plugin. So this is a plugin that allows you to create different image galleries. It's still pretty decent too. I mean, I know the native WordPress gallery block is pretty good these days. And actually, if you're using Cadence, I think the Cadence block is also even better. But there might be an instance where you want to still use a plugin like this. So as you can see, the plugin itself, once you install it, and I've created a gallery with a bunch of images, what it'll give you is this shortcode, which if I click on it, you can see my icon changed. Hopefully you can see that is, boom, it copies the shortcode to my clipboard. So now what do I do with that in my shortcode demo page here? I've dropped these shortcode blocks. So again, these are the native blocks I dropped in there. So for the foo gallery one, for example, you just paste it in here. And so as you can see, the structure, how you can tell something's a shortcode generally is you have the square brackets on the side. This name is something the plugin defines. So it doesn't always correspond to the plugin, which can be a little bit confusing sometimes. If you're looking at a site and you see a shortcode someplace, I've had some where I'm like, what is this? Where is this coming from? It's up to the developers how well they implement that. But in general, this is another thing to look for, ID number. So that'll correspond to hopefully something on that plugin. So what does this look like on the actual front end? If I look at this page over here, there we go. So this is that gallery. So it basically, so on the front end, as you can see, one thing that's different between this and the custom HTML is I can't see a preview of this on the back end here. Like there is no preview for it. So I actually have to save the page. I could look at it in preview mode or whatever, or just, I've got to look at the page itself. I can't see it while I'm here. That's one limitation, I think, of this shortcode thing. But it makes sense because some shortcodes are extremely complicated. They're running lots of code. A couple other quick ones too, and I'm not sure anyone's really used this before. Like I said, these days you probably would use block patterns for this, but there are plugins out there that give you additional shortcodes. I remember using this on an older site, so I had to find it. But this plugin is called where is it? Shortcodes Ultimate. So there's a free version. I think there's a paid version as well too. But what's kind of neat though is it does give you a bunch of different things that, to be honest, these days you're probably better off finding. I should say better off, but there's probably alternatives to this, like cadence blocks or things like that. Do they run any better than shortcodes? I don't know. I'm not that much of an expert to say are there any performance issues or not. But basically, what is kind of neat about this is if it's something fairly simple, like in this case, I've installed this plugin. I think I'm using two of the shortcodes here. One is this dummy text one. It's kind of neat. So I'm saying that in the shortcode, I just want it to generate 2 paragraphs worth of dummy text. And then this other one, I'll show them both at the same time, is I put the shortcode around a large body of text and it has a show more. So it'll give me a certain, like this one, I think it's height of lines. And then after that, there'll be a show more button behind it. So here's what the dummy text, it creates a couple of these for you. And then the show more, it does that. So, it's a free plugin. So if you have a need of any of these like kind of minor things, maybe you don't want to install another set of blocks. That's another way to do it. So shortcodes in HTML, custom HTML, I think are definitely two of the ones that I use quite often, or at least, or you'll encounter them on sites as well. And I'll pass it back to you, Peter. Is there anything else in pixel versus percentage in the iframe generator? Bob asked. Yeah, that's one thing with iframes. Unfortunately, iframes are not very good in many cases for being responsive too, because you're not really controlling the behavior of that page. Your frame is really almost like a div or something on your page. So that's why you see a lot of the iframes have the ability if you want scroll bars or not. So you've got to test that out a bit, on mobile devices. Sometimes you have to add the scroll bar, which is a lousy experience on mobile. So definitely one limitation of iframes. All right, back to Peter.
Okay, so we're up to basically the last one that I'm going to show until we both talk about the search one, but that is latest posts. Now, what latest posts is basically, I think I consider it a stripped down version of the query loop block. And there's a number of other, there's advanced query loops, and there are, block. We don't mean to keep coming back to Cadence, but that's what I use, where they have an advanced query loop. And basically a query loop goes through your content and can pull out titles of posts and the content from that post and all, and then display it how you want to display it. So it loops through your content. The latest post block is basically a version of that, a small version of that. So if we just go into latest posts, so I'm going to add that block. That block now, what's kind of nice about it, what has evolved more over time are the options that you have when you're showing it. So again, it's kind of like query loop block in that it's going through your content and showing it. So the options for the query loop block are all over here under your, again, your block options. And this is where you can turn things on or off. You can show some level of content. The metadata, are the date, the author, things like that. So depending on which ones that they're including there, so you can turn the metadata on or off. Featured image. So this is again something that feels a little bit more a query block. I mean, a query loop specific. How you order it. If you want to filter it by categories. If you want to filter it by author, and how many items you're going to show. So, you can think about it like filtering by author might be, here's an author page, and then you could put this block at the bottom of the author page and say, here are the last, 5 articles by this author, for example. That's a specific use of using that on a widget block, but on a specific page, that type of thing. So, just in playing with some of these things, first of all, I'll set a category to something that's a little bit more interesting than just some of the demo content. So, something I have called Connecticut Outdoors. This is my demo content. Now we can see, all right, so it's bringing over the titles. If I want to show post content, now I can see, do I want to show everything? Probably not, but you can see this is it's very much like the query loop block, just kind of simplified down. I can change, the maximum number of words in here. I don't know if it's going to do that dynamically. Probably not. Some things work dynamically on the back end versus the front end, but let's just, leave it at, let's see how short I can get, 22. All right. Display the author name. If I turn that on, there's the author name showing over here. Display post date. Again, it's going through the posts based on what we're selecting over here. I can choose the featured image. And then what's kind of interesting with the featured image is you can get into all kinds, which size, where do you want to, or let's have it, aligned left. So now it's going to wrap left. I can add the link, very query loopy, right? To it, show newest to oldest. If I save that and I come back over here to my demo page, see, so this is my latest. This is all coming out of that block. You could see it on the back end, but you can see how it basically is a query loop. You don't have as many design controls over it, but if you want to just kind of pull content and put it something, again, I like the idea of like, hey, here are the last articles by a particular author, for example, or if you're under category, here are the last things maybe you want to talk about in this. So what did I pull over here? So, Connecticut Outdoors. Maybe I have a Connecticut Outdoors top level page and I say, here's our latest articles for all of them. Click on, that type of thing. You can use the block, this widget block for things like that. Anytime you want to say, go get posts, filter them by this, show certain elements of that post. Yeah, I mean, it's a pretty robust thing considering you actually have the full query loop. And if you're not sure what I mean by that, if I go to add the query loop block, now you get into, you have to start it up and say, okay, and then you're going to design the stuff that's in the query loop. But so, for just I don't want to say down and dirty, but for a simplified,
yeah, I think it's actually it's easier to understand what it's doing than the query loop.
It's a pretty straightforward way of saying, I just want to show, my last 3 posts in this particular category on this page. This could be a block for you.
Cool. All right, let me because we're kind of run out of time. Let me show real quick the social icons one. Then we'll both talk about search because I think search is probably one that has more, I shouldn't say more useful, but one that probably people are more likely to encounter. So the social icon one is a little bit confusing too. So it's just a social icons block. So this one really just lets you link to your social media profiles or sites. Really basic stylings you'll see in a second. And the thing is, it's not the same as creating like a social sharing icon on your site. There's plugins to do that. There's nothing in core that lets you do that. So what I mean by that is if you have, let's say, a blog and you want a link there that says share on Facebook or share on LinkedIn or whatever. That's not what this is. This is literally just, like in this case, I put it in the header here, just literally a link to your social platforms. So this will take like literally, I'm like, I keep saying literally, it's going to take like a second to show you what this is. But if I go into header here, I won't even like open that up too much farther. This icon is, there it is, social icons. So you can have multiples in here. As soon as you hit the plus sign, it shows you what's built in. There's actually quite a few. So if I, Bandcamp, so some oddball ones like Behance, I don't think these are, but quite a few, like
Yeah.
shockingly quite a few. And that Blue Sky, is it Blue Sky in here? Yeah, they do. So they've kept these up. It's kind of interesting. So when you add one of these things, this is really the only option you get is you get to put in your link. And then from a styling standpoint, as I recall, I don't think, this is it. This is really basic styling. You get what you get. I think your theme styling, because I tried this on another theme, can also override these colors a little bit. So just, be aware of that. If you need something a little bit more robust than that, I'm thinking just a real simple one. As I said, alternatives, there are plugins out there. The one I think I put on here is not the sassy one, is social icons and sharing buttons by WP Zoom. So that I won't show you again, it's just a plugin you install, but the difference is this guy, you have a lot more control. So if you need to do a bit more, like for example, where is it? So sharing button. Oh, not sharing buttons. Sorry. Is this the right one? I have two of these installed. The icons. So that's my socials. Yeah, so it lets you do things like change the size of this, change the colors, a lot more control. So if you need that level of control, you're probably better off, to be honest, using this is a free plugin on the WordPress repository, using something like this rather than the one that's built in. But something quick and dirty, somebody says, hey, I just want to add my Facebook link to the top, use the built-in one. I think it's fine for that. And
And then
then
you get the shortcode widget.
what's that?
Then you use the shortcode widget.
Shortcode widget. Yes, I'm sorry.
Because you're showing, your example gives you a lot of the plugins that generate shortcode will give you the shortcode that you just copy and paste. And
yes, exactly. So this is probably the one that I know we're kind of running out of time a little bit, but I think we certainly talked about it in 15 minutes. The search block is another interesting one. So again, the use case for this is if you have a site that has a lot of content, I'm thinking blogs or maybe a site with a lot of pages, if you want to improve your user experience, rather than having people, search through page by page, you have the ability to add like a search widget. So typically you'll see this a lot on sites in like the header because it's something you want across the site. You can drop it on a page itself. It doesn't kind of make sense there. So one thing to be aware of is that the default one built into WordPress core, it returns results from the titles and body of your posts and pages, as well as from media titles, alt text, file names, and single image captions. As you'll see, one thing that's unfortunate is it doesn't give you a lot of configurability in the core block. It won't return results from widgets, comments, galleries. So there's some caveats to it. I won't go through these all, but just, if you try this, the core one, like, hey, how come I'm not getting these results back? It may be because of these limitations. In the results display in reverse chronological order, so newest stuff first, and then it displays the content with the matching term in the body. I think I said that already. And then the search results themselves are displayed on a template. So depending on your theme, the search results may look a little bit different. So I'll show this kind of quickly, and Peter can chime in as well too. So I think on this site, if I recall, yeah, okay, so I put it up here. I added it, I'm using, again, this is the 2025 theme, so your theme may style these things a bit different. I think the button here looks like this because of the 2025 theme, as I recall. I'll just go edit the header so you can see what it looks like. And then if I look at my list view, it should be down here. Okay, so the search widget block is this. As you can see, there's nothing. There's almost nothing there. When you first look at it, I'm like, oh, what can I really control? Well, I can control a couple things. I can say here is where the title. You can remove that if you want. Here's where you put in placeholder text, so you can change this. And then the search thing, you can say, I don't know, search. No, whatever. Very, very limited. That's it. You can't control anything in terms of the results, any of that stuff coming back. Yeah, the button, I think I can switch the button to say left or right, outside, etc. So very minor styling stuff, but nothing in terms of the actual functionality itself. So step number one, if you are going to use this, step number one, you need to place this someplace. Again, most likely header on your site is where you would put it. And then step number two, just the corresponding thing, is you need to understand what the search results are going to look like. So let me maybe run the search first, and I'll show you the page. So on this site, what am I going to search for? I had something specific to search for. I think I'm going to say button. I think I have a couple pages where I mentioned the word button. Okay, great. So this thing we're looking at here is really a search results template, and this will be implemented by your theme. So in this case, I'm using 2025. So if I edit my site, so I'm in the theme editor, this is showing me the result, my search results. If I look underneath templates here, again, if you're not used to full site editing, you'll see it's this template itself. So if you're using full site editing, you can control what the search results will look like. So for example, here, I threw this in. So this thing, search results title, you can't really control much of. You can either turn it on or off. It shows you the search term. You can put additional fields in here, like whatever, so I typed that in, and all the search results are really going to come back in this query loop. So I can determine, because remember, it's searching posts or pages or that other stuff. So I can determine how I want this to display in my search results template. But for now, I'll just leave it alone. Let's go back to my search page here. Oops, get out of here. Back to the site. So again, I'll search my one-term button. So as you can see, it looks a little confusing because my site looks a little goofy, but basically it's saying, oh, I found the term button on this post and this post. And that's it, just two posts, or three posts have that term button on it. So I go into this, for example, structured blocks. Somewhere in here, it should say action button. So it found it. So that's the basic one. I'll show real quick, Peter, maybe just for the sake of time. I'll show an alternative to this. If you want more control over this, there's plugins. You really need to use a plugin, I think. One of the plugins that's quite popular for this is called Relevancy. If you look for on the repository, it's Relevancy. It has kind of this goofy icon-looking face thing. Oh, it doesn't show it here. But anyway, it's, if you just in plugins in the repository, you search for that. What this does for you is this gives you a lot more control. So for example, the first time you run this, you may have to index all your information, but it allows you to say what you want to index and not index. So for example, maybe I just want the search to do blog posts, or maybe I don't want it to do attachments, or maybe I don't want to do custom post types, things like that. So this gives you that level of control, which the default one doesn't allow you to do. But the other very powerful thing here too is how you search. So I'll show this. So I've turned on relevancy. Let me just save this now. So the cool thing about relevancy is it's not a widget in itself. It really takes over the search functionality. So I can still use what I dropped in there, but this time if I say, I'm saying I'll show you this again. I'm going to say action button. And if I search now, I should, oops, sorry, I need to start back in the top here. Action button. So I search now, I get the same results, right? I still get the columns, I get this guy, I get this assist thing, I get one more, I think there was one more page with that, I think on the top. But I can change the default. So right now, the way the search is working is either one of those terms, either action or button, will return search results. Well, if I can switch it to and, so and is gonna make this a much tighter search. So in this case, now if I go back and I type in that same term, action button, it should only return back the page that has that specific term. So there we go. Now I'm only getting back this one page, because on this one page, you can see I have action button. So that's one key thing. And there's a whole bunch of other, we won't get into this tonight, but a whole bunch of other things you can do with it. You can have it weight the search results differently, et cetera, et cetera. So if you need more control, the basic WordPress search probably won't cut it for you. But if you do need something simple, again, at least that widget is kind of a starting point. Peter, any other alternatives to relevancy that you've encountered?
Yeah, there's a couple, especially where you get really involved in it, and we're not going to begin to touch on this right now, is when you are using something like WooCommerce and you have an e-commerce site and you have e-commerce searching where we want to do products. So there's another tool called Ivory Search, and Ivory Search has a free version on the WordPress repository. It gets into quite a bunch of details. Where the tools like Ivory Search do, what they have, and if you want to look at pricing, their free version has a whole lot of features, and then you can, very fairly priced. Their demo, without loading it, does things like this is where if you start doing a shirt, say you do a search on the demo, now you have what's called Ajax. So it live action searches for something, and then depending on how you set the output, so now you're getting immediate responses back, which is pretty wild. If I typed in hello down here, and it was like, oh, here's hello. So that's another type. That's now taking a search box to the next level. And the only other thing probably to show would be something like some themes will treat search a little bit differently. So Cadence has a search block, and the search block is meant to be placed in the header, the footer. Of course, you can place it anywhere, as part of the theming. And one of the things that there's an option that it works just like the block, but you can also do things like this kind of modal type of search where it's using the same WordPress searching. So if you're using relevancy, for example, it'll use the relevancy search because it's just the WordPress search, but it's how it's presenting it on the front end. So that is here now on the back end. And if I'm looking at something like a Cadence, I have this block here where, now you can decide whether you want it to be a button or not a button. Now that I made it one, I wonder where I can turn it back. But, you have different options here where you can say, oh, that's because the search is a block that wraps the button that they put inside. So if I said, if I was back here on my advanced search, I could probably, just show it as a box versus a button kind of thing. So the modal is the thing where now it opens up, like, and we're used to this for things like mobile devices, right? So when you've got your phone and then you touch search, and now you're just presented with a search box with sort of the black or the semi-transparent dark background, that type of thing. So that's another way of taking the same functionality, but now it's a different block that gives you these different styling options.
And I was going to show Cadence as well too, Peter. So maybe while you have the screen, the one thing I was going to show with it is, can you show this page in, can you save this page and just show it like live? Because the other nice thing about using the built-in Cadence search is you can also, it's very easy in Cadence to then style the search results, like almost immediately. Yes, I don't know if you search for a term that you have on the site. Yeah, so at this point, if Peter goes to customize,
Right.
yeah, and in Cadence, this will allow him to see underneath here, it's search results. Yeah, so there, it's really easy. Again, Cadence doesn't have a full site editor necessarily, but it allows him to do really simple things like say, oh, in my search results template, here's how I want to style it. And it's pretty nice. Again, this is a free version of Cadence as well. Well, I think yours is, I shouldn't speak, but it does allow this in the free version too. So you can
And
do
that
a bit more. Yeah, you can do a bit
turning
more.
on that metadata, that deciding on that search, do you want, to what level of detail that you want to just display, that type of thing.
Yeah.
So yeah, a lot of power behind that.
Yeah, so that's it. I mean, I think in terms of the widgets that we showed, I mean, there's some that you're more likely to encounter. Again, search, I see on times, but I'll be honest too, I see sites that probably should have it that don't have search implemented.
Yeah.
And then the custom HTML, the shortcodes one, I see that quite a bit. Some of the others, like I said, they're good to know they're there because you may have a specialized use case for them. But yeah, so some of them, to be honest, I think are kind of they're a bit legacy, kind of remnants of back when WordPress itself was much more of a blogging platform, whereas now it's being used for many different things. So
Yeah, I think right. So the short code, the custom HTML, the latest post, depending on, right, that's a simple way of doing a query loop. And of course the search, which where you'll typically put that up in the header or the footer or somewhere, and things like Ivory, and I'm not sure about relevancy, is like say you had a subsection of your site and you wanted to have a search just for there, or you get into higher advanced ones and it could search into your PDFs and things like that.
yeah.
But a lot of the other ones, we want to present them because we started this kind of process of going through all the blocks and just to see, because we know that we've got people who are dealing with even the legacy. They're not even using widget blocks. They're using kind of the classic widget plugin or a theme that just doesn't support the widget blocks, and maybe now you can see, oh, it'll and when the transfer happened, when block widgets came out, all of the legacy ones automatically became the new blocks.
Right.
So
yeah.
it was pretty seamless, and that's why they work and look exactly the same. I was playing around with going from classic, putting them in, and then changing it back to the standard now block widget editor, and it changed nothing on the front end the way it looked. So
yeah, and some, like I said, some of them have added a bit more functionality and styling options, but some of them are, like I said, very basic, just like they were in the classic kind of widgets. So, well, I think that's it for widgets. I think that's it for all the blocks that I think we've covered. We're not going to do the embeds. There's like 500 of those weird embed blocks. Like you don't want to watch us putting in what is like Bandcamp is in there, and YouTube and everything else. So I think we've covered the core until they start adding new core blocks, which kind of goes back to looping back to the beginning of this conversation during the news and all that. Me personally, I do feel like it's time for some new core blocks. And like the accordion is just one of them. We talked about some other ones that may be coming because it's like some of these blocks really haven't changed that much. They keep adding little features to them, but I would like to see them put, again, I don't want everything in core, but I want enough in core where if it's something simple, I don't need to go install another plugin or another block package for that. So we'll see. Again, as new blocks become available over time, we'll definitely review those as well in some depth. So, but I think with that, I don't see any questions in the chat. Thanks everyone again for coming. Like I said, yeah, we'll come up with a new topic next month. If you have other ideas, thank you everyone who left some ideas, and let us know. Be happy to bring up new stuff next time we talk. So thank you everyone. Have a good rest of your night. Take care. See you. Bye.